who are new to my channel, welcome. And for those of you who are subscribed to JSpeaks, thank you so much and welcome back. It is my mission and it's my passion to bring to you all conversation topics that are positive, motivational, educational, and informational. Today, I'm delighted with a special guest, Danii McLeod, a Black woman from Trinidad and Tobago. We actually went to college together. We graduated from Howard University and both received our Bachelor's of Science in Chemical Engineering. And while in college, we both served on two e-boards together, both the National Society of Black Engineers, otherwise known as NSBE, and the American Institute of Chemical Engineers, otherwise known as ICHE. Not only is it hard enough to be successful as a Black woman in a male-dominated field, Danii took it a step further and is the CEO and founder of Carnicycle. As you can decipher from the word carnicycle, carnival, recycle. You see, me personally, I've never been to a carnival, but I have been to a music festival. And I can say trash does accumulate quickly and it is left there. Well, Carnicycle does not let that happen from a carnival perspective. You see, actually, they seek out left behind carnival costumes in order to recycle them. I am very interested in learning more about Carnicycle, and I hope you are too. Let's roll today's commercial and get started with today's interview. Thank you. Now that you've seen what Carnicycle does, let's now welcome Danii and understand the why behind Carnicycle and see where they are headed. Hello, Danii. Welcome.
Hey, John, it is so nice to see you again.
It's so nice to see you. How are you?
I am amazing and wonderful. I'm happy to be on Jay Speaks.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I understand and I know that I gave, an introduction about you before starting the video. But if you don't mind, please, do you mind sharing a couple words with everybody? Just giving a brief overview of, who you are, what you do, and how you got here.
Yeah, so you gave a wonderful introduction already. So I have to start off with that. Thank you. But yeah, as you said, my name is Danii McLeod. I'm a believer. I am a Trinbagonian hailing from Trinidad and Tobago, and I am a creative and an engineer, as you introduced me of. I currently work as a sustainability program manager at Watts Water Technology. They're a manufacturing company, and I'm also the CEO and co-founder of Carnicycle.
Okay, okay. I'm glad to hear that you're still enjoying your major and still, being productive in your field. So before we dive deep into Carnicycle, let's take a step back. Um, so carnivals, what is for those of us who don't know carnivals are, might be unfamiliar to their reason and their purpose. Do you mind explaining that from your perspective? Like why do we have carnivals? What's the purpose?
Yes. That's great. So there's a lot of history behind Carnival, but it originates from Trinidad and Tobago. And in Trinidad and Tobago, there were French settlers who were invited to the island. And when the French settlers came into the island, they brought their traditions with them. So they brought their big masquerade balls to the island. But of course, the enslaved um, African Americans and indigenous people were not allowed to attend those masquerade balls. And so in rebellion, the slaves basically created their own event, which we kind of shorten as mass. And mass is another name for carnival. So the slaves created their own mass. Part of the celebration was to mock the slave owners and the slave masters. So they would mock their traditions, mock their dances, And so masks became a rebellion against slavery, and it became an act of freedom by the slave people. So that's what it represents traditionally. In modern days, it's kind of turned into a party where people still celebrate just the freedom of being their own I don't know what to say, like their own master, I guess, but just not being enslaved anymore, and celebrating the success of their ancestors to try to break free from being enslaved. And yeah, the carnival represents uh freedom, rejoicing, fun, and it really is just a really big celebration that happens annually in Trinidad and Tobago and a lot of the other Caribbean islands. And it's grown so big that it's celebrated in over 50 countries, and there's over 150 carnival celebrations now. And a majority of the carnivals, fun fact, take place before Lent period because that's when the French masquerade balls would happen. And so, yeah. There
Wow. You took my follow-up question right out of my mouth because you said that carnivals originated in Trinidad and Tobago, right? That's what you said.
hmm
And I know that there are two big carnivals that happen, at least in the US. One in Miami and Miami, Florida. Am I correct? One in Miami, Florida, and one in Canada.
Yes, those are the
Yeah,
two biggest North
those are
American carnivals.
the biggest ones. That's probably why I know it. Probably mainstream news when it comes to carnivals. But interesting. Okay. But yeah, that was a very fine overview. So thank you so much for explaining that. So now diving into Carnicycle. So why did you decide to start your business? And so why this focus? Carnivals. Why out of everything that you could have done, why carnivals? Why carnivals?
To be honest, John, I did not even think about making Carnival sustainable on my own or immediately. I've always had like a keen interest in entrepreneurship thanks to my parents. I have two sets of parents, a mom and a stepdad, and a dad and a stepmom, and all four of them are entrepreneurs in their own right. Actually, I'm the first to go to college, so I'm first generation, and they all kind of bypassed college, went into their own fields, and then eventually became serial entrepreneurs. And just being inspired and witnessing that growing up and witnessing them go through the challenges of being an entrepreneur, but also going through the joys of being an entrepreneur, which includes like setting your own schedule, being able to take us to different places, being able to take time off, was very inspiring at a young age. And my first run into entrepreneurship was actually in high school. I wanted some extra change and I started making brownies and selling them in school. Regular brownies. And so yeah, I made one batch and I just brought it to school one day in a little like plastic container, and then all of it sold out in one day. So it was like probably only like 12 brownies in there. And I was like, 12 brownies times $3. I could make something here. And so I did that to make money like throughout school. And it was like so much. It was like, Danii, when are you bringing in your brownies? And I'm like, guys, I have to study. But that is the first my first kind of encounter with entrepreneurship. My second encounter wouldn't happen until senior year in Howard. But if we pivot back, first year at Howard, um, I had transferred into the chemical engineering department because, as you may know, uh, I didn't come into Howard as a chemical engineer, but as a bio student, heading on the medicine track. And so when I decided to switch to chemical engineering, I just knew I didn't want to do medicine, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. But I've always had a passion for the environment. So that would have, been in my mind here and there, and I would have took some environmental classes offered at Howard, and I would have done some research under our department head, Dr. Chawla, um, and that was environmental research, and that like continued to pique my interest. And so, yeah, back to freshman year, one of our teachers, Dr. Therakin, would have asked everybody in freshman intro to chemical engineering, like, what do you want to do? I was just like, I wanted to operate a recycling plant in Tobago because there wasn't any there. And that was it. That was what I said. Fast forward to senior year, I still had that in my head, and I'm like, okay, let's make it happen. And so I initially thought of trying to create like a plastic melting and recycling plant because plastic waste is the second largest waste in Trinidad and Tobago. So I started there. I did my first pitch senior year competition and I got third place. And that was like my first time in the startup scene. And it was so fun, but then plastic recycling and all of the red tape and all of the barricades for doing that in Trinidad and Tobago was so hard at the time. So I was just like, okay, need a pivot. Um I want to come back to this, but this is not working right now. So I was just like, okay, the first largest amount of waste in Trinidad and Tobago is organics, food waste, grass cuttings, anything, there's a lot of nature and abundance of greenery. So there's a lot of organic waste. So it's just like composting. There's no composting program. So I was knees deep into a community composting program with my co-founder. And then I'm not gonna lie, John, I literally had like a dream or a vision. I was like literally staying up late one night, and then Carnival just came into my head.
Mm.
And I didn't know like where it came from. So, but Carnival came into my head. And so I'm like, okay. And so Carnival came into my head, and then I looked it up. And I was just like, what about Carnival? Where do Carnival costumes go after the celebration is over? And that question didn't leave my head. So I went to ask my co-founder, I went to ask my dad. I went to ask my mom, who plays every single year um, for the last 20 years. Like, I just thought about how she just stopped bringing her costumes home after like year five, So like, where did it go? And so that kind of was the catalyst to starting Carnicycle. That question of where did Carnival go? I really think that idea was inputted by God because I was on a totally different direction. And um yeah, the idea of making one of our most beautifully and culturally important celebrations more sustainable, not just environmentally, but socially and economically, because this is our largest tourism product and a lot of large tourism products for the rest of the Caribbean region. Just more sustainable, like just became my dream and purpose.
Wow, wow, well said, well said. Ladies and gentlemen, as Danii kind of talked about, a dream always stays a dream until you take action. Remember that. And it's very funny, you brought up um, an instance, you said in, I think it was in elementary school, about how you were selling brownies.
Yeah.
It's funny, I know another entrepreneur who started in that exact same track in life, not necessarily brownies, but selling candy, going to Costco, going to Sam's Club and buying just boxes of candy or boxes of candy, boxes of chips, vending machine type um, snacks and selling them. And, that's what also sparked him or motivated him to go into entrepreneurship. So that's very interesting that you said that. Wow. Um, now, I might be wrong about this, but aren't carnival costumes expensive?
Oh, they are really expensive.
So it just my mind that, you're paying for these expensive clothing with not, very, not like it's robust clothing, I should say. It's, you know what I'm saying? Like you're exposed, like you're showing your curves, showing your hips and everything, showing your body. So so these expensive costumes will just it's just customary for these expensive costumes to be bought for a one time event, 1 day event. I don't know how long the carnival lasts, but that I guess that's customary.
Mhm. Traditionally, Carnival is a 2 day celebration in terms of like physically being in your costume, but the
Mhm.
celebration really, in some countries is 1 day, and the celebrations could happen like months in advance. So our carnival season in Trinidad and Tobago is actually like 3 months. So that means 3 months of events surrounding carnival time. It's not just the road parade. Three
Okay.
months of national competitions. Like we are the originators of steel pan, so we have a big steel pan competitions from schools, from adult steel pan organizations. Uh, yeah, although the carnival costumes are very expensive, I just want to say that you're also paying for the experience, right? So you're paying for entry to the parade, you're paying for food and drinks, breakfast and lunch every day for those 2 days, and you're paying for security, you're paying for the music, you're paying for the experience as well. But the costume is the most tangible thing. You're walking away after you put down 1,000 to like 1,300 US, on a costume. And paying for a costume is the only way to partake in the celebration. So yes, you are paying for a costume and entry to this experience. And it's expensive. It's expensive, like money wise, and it's expensive to the environment. These costumes are made out of harmful plastic materials like polyamide, elastane, very harmful pollutants, and from the beads, the acrylic beads that are used to like adorn the costumes. And then even down to the feathers used on our backpacks, which are basically wings. They look like wings. They're real animal feathers, and one of the animal feathers has like a super long supply chain starting from South Africa and then somehow ending up in the Caribbean to be used for a day. So yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Now, you talked a lot about entrepreneurship in the beginning half of your um, answering to my question. Why did you start this business? So, what advice could you give to anybody who's interested in, being an entrepreneur of some sort?
Mhm. So there's so much advice that I could give, but taking from my personal experience, I think that one, you should uh just go for it. Um, you know, when like all of my endeavors that I had, I didn't necessarily have a plan laid out for me of like how I wanted. I had a vision that's different, but I didn't have like a step-by-step plan or blueprint to how this was going to be executed. And it takes a lot of faith to, think of something or dream of something and then actually, like you said, put action behind it. And so um you don't have to have every small finite detail figured out before you make your next move. It is wise to like, get advice. Like I told you, I brought up the idea to my co-founder and my dad, and my co-founder obviously had to be on board because we were pivoting. But when you really feel in your gut to do something, um, you've done your due diligence a little bit. I did a little bit of research, and then I asked people I trusted. I just went for it. And you go for it full speed. You go for it even though it may not work out, or even if you might fail along the way. Um, and I think my previous steps with entrepreneurship and just going for it led me to where I am now. And all the skills I would have learned over time, trying out different things, being in different circles prepared me more for Carnicycle. So yeah.
And you just touched on my follow-up question, or at least you hinted at the word that I'm trying to get at. What skills, what attributes do you believe make a great entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur, from your experience?
Yeah. Um, I definitely think knowing your strengths and weaknesses is really huge as an entrepreneur because the fact is, although you might start by yourself, to grow and scale to anything big, you're eventually going to need a team, one person at a time, something. And you just have to know there's someone who could do this part of this job better than me, and you need to know and understand that because doing it yourself for a while ends up burning you out. And again, this journey of entrepreneurship is that it's a journey, it's a marathon, it's not a race, and you need to be in it for the long run. You need support over time and you need help. So for me, identifying my strengths and weaknesses, or even like the time I had. As you know, I'm still working a full-time job, not quite full-time yet into Carnicycle, but that's the goal. And so yeah, so knowing the time I have and like what I'm best at, um, like who else could I bring on the team to help us like be even more successful in areas where I'm just not as good at. And so the sooner you could do that. I know it's not always possible in the beginning because of money, but you'll be surprised. Some people will just believe in your journey and will do it for free. So yeah.
Wow, yes, and I totally agree with you. Success is a journey, not a destination. Fall in love, living in your present, and enjoying your now. You know, enjoying the little steps towards your end all be all goal, no matter how small. So that's definitely good that you brought that up. And I actually talked about this in one of my, actually not one of my first video. Building a successful team. You know, knowing who are your role players, who are your cheerleaders. You can't do life by yourself. And like Danny explained, in order to scale, in order to be more successful and touch more people along the way, you need to include people in your team, include people in your circle who can do what you do, but maybe a little bit better or a little bit faster. And it can take off the work from your plate and allow you to think about something else. So success is a journey, not a destination. Thank you, Danny, for bringing that up. My next question would be, you know, knowing that entrepreneurship is a journey, knowing that there's a start and a never-ending finish. I'm sure you um, ran into doubt and fear and situations that made you uncomfortable. How do you personally or what recommendations can you give to anybody who wants to start in entrepreneurship but might be fearful of the unknown? They might doubt themselves or and have that prevent them from reaching their potential.
Mhm. So, um, I kind of okay, the way I want to answer this question. Um, okay, so to answer your question, some of the ways I personally deal with fear and doubt is through my relationship with God, right? So I just want to start there because for me, I feel like fear and doubt is inevitable, and I don't think those are things you could prevent coming up. So I don't think you could go in this life without encountering fear and doubt, at different stages in your life. But how long you sit in that place of fear and doubt and how long you let it prevent you from going to the next step, is the issue. And for me, connecting to my source, Jesus, God, is how I stay out of that place of fear and doubt for too long because it comes. And with Carnicycle, it's come. One of the biggest moments of fear and doubt for me was when the pandemic hit. So the pandemic hit and everything was shut down for basically 2 years. Sorry. Everything was shut down for basically 2 years. And during that time, there was no carnivals because everything was shut down. So I'm like, wow, my whole business is really dependent on this event existing or not. And so that kind of led me to question and doubt my impact to kind of this world or anything like that. Is there something that will continuously be going on that I could impact beyond like a world shutdown? But through my alone time relationship with God was just like, this is what I planted in you. You know what I mean? There is nobody in this space touching carnival and coming from this angle or this light. You know what I mean? Everyone is focused on a different aspect of carnival, and you're focusing on the sustainability of it, the damage that it's doing, and how we could be more positive while doing it. And so like that kind of reminded me of it. And then he also sent people. So um
Yes.
as I was beginning to doubt myself, or not beginning to doubt myself, I was doubting myself fully, you know what I mean? He would send people to be like, hey Danii, do you want to do this webinar? I really think Carnicycle is so important. Hey Danii, do you want a partner? And like those really came at the point when I was just like, God, please just, help me continue this. And he sent those people to just give me encouragement. Um, Along with my co-founder too, we were both in the same boat. He sent us these people when we were struggling ourselves. And then that's another thing. Having a co-founder is super awesome because yeah, just in moments of those times where I doubted myself outside of the pandemic experience, I had my co-founder to anchor on and vice versa. And so going back to what you said, like um not only my relationship with God, but like just the circle and the team around me, again is really important because yeah, by yourself, you can sometimes just give up so easily. And I never gave up on Carnicycle, but I have had times where I've just doubted the journey or doubted the process. I didn't trust the process as much as I should have. And yeah, it was God that reeled me back in. It was those people, my support system that reeled me back in. And so for those who are encountering fear and doubt, I would, ask you to look at who you're putting your faith in, as well as look at the people around you for help and lean on, the people closest to you. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. I enjoyed listening to the response. That was amazing. You know, by ourselves, we can only do so much, but with God, we do so much more. So thank you for really reiterating that and driving that home. And not only that, you know, having people who believe in you, it doesn't even matter how few, just knowing that, there's someone out there that believes in you. That could be somebody who's working alongside with you, founder, co-founder, two people who have the same mission. Or that could be somebody who sees what you're doing from an outside perspective and they like what you're doing. So that's really huge. That's really huge. Thank you for saying that. And I'm seeing that in my journey as well. You know, working with, putting out content for people who believe in you and who want to see you succeed, it just pushes you the extra mile every single time. So I definitely agree with what you're saying.
yeah.
My follow-up question or my next question would be, what routines do you do, every single day, every single week to keep you grounded in your purpose, to keep you grounded, um, in the direction of life that you're going into, that prevent you from not wavering into fear or doubt or your feelings, but seeing the long-term goals and the long-term benefits of Carnicycle.
Mhm. So in terms of routine, um, again, I do try to start off every day with a morning devotional. And I've built that routine over like 3 years. It's been a habit that slowly was built to be more consistent. Um, which I just want to interject people, routines and habits just take a long time to form. So as long as you keep trying, like it will happen eventually. And so I do try to start off every morning with you know, getting the word in, having some alone time with God, because really that sets the tone of the day for me. Before I gotta start going to work, before I start answering emails, it helps me be grounded and focused in like, okay, refocusing my vision for the day, how I'm going to respond to people, how I'm going to think about like situations and more from a positive outlook, everything. It just really sets a tone. So I would say that is number one. And then I've slowly started incorporating more health and fitness into my routine that isn't as like every single day. It isn't as consistent, but I've slowly started doing that because you have to be physically fit to keep up with this. I'm not gonna lie. You know,
That's very,
it's not
that's,
something people talk about, but it's
there's an
true.
emotional, spiritual, and a physical aspect.
Yes,
Absolutely.
literally.
And
Yes,
your body tells the world how at least your mental and just mental and spiritual are. So it's very important.
exactly. 100%. So I've started like dialing into that, and not as consistent as like my morning devotionals, but it is a key part that over this journey I was just like, um, you know, my health and fitness needs to be prioritized just amongst everything else. You know, like it just has to be in order to, you know, sustain it. But other things I do in my daily routine, I try to, you know, have some level of customer service. So I'm always checking emails at the beginning of the day, making sure I respond to people, making sure I check in with my team. And then um I always try to stay alert about the industry. So whether it's the sustainability side of the industry or the carnival side of the industry, I'm always trying to at least one part of the day checking into what's going on in the sustainable fashion world or what's going on in the carnival world. I try to get some sort of information in a day. And then I just work towards my goals um each day. So at the beginning of the year, I set goals in 5 different buckets of Carnicycle of what I want to achieve by the end of 2023. Like, we kind of have like a 3-year plan going. And so yeah, each day I make sure to hit like one of those 5 categories because that means each day I'm hitting at least one. If I hit more than one a day, I'm good. But I need to at least be hitting one of those and making progress towards that goal. And that is kind of the general routine of what I do every day.
It sounds very productive, sounds very beneficial, both to yourself and to the longevity of Carnicycle. So definitely some good stuff going on. So you mentioned team. So how big is your team?
So right now we have it's me, my co-founder. We have 2 advisors. We have a social media person, a recycling person, and a sales person. So 7 people.
Wow.
Seven
And how
people.
long did it take to get to 7 people?
Like the 2018 is where when end of 2018 is when we started. Um, everyone joined within the last 2 years, besides my co-founder. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
So,
you definitely see the benefits of being with a team because you and your co-founder were doing everything.
Yes, you
Uh,
are.
so you definitely can feel the weight being lifted off your shoulders after
Yes.
working out with five other people. So interesting, interesting.
Yeah.
And oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, although, um, oh, another piece of advice, just because I've learned it, even when you're doing things by yourself, I would give advice to setting up systems, so that if you had someone take over like a certain role, like list out everything that you do for your business, um, and map out how that job is supposed to be done. So when someone is on being onboarded, you could just hand that over to them, because that was a whole other learning curve or thing that I had to do. Like when you hire someone, you just can't just say, okay, this is the job description. This is what I want you to do. Like it takes, um, some structure, and you have to put some systems into place so that, um, they could do the job, to your expectations. And if they leave, someone else could do the job, Um, and so I would recommend that because that's just something I've had to learn. So
Wow, all great advice. It's always better to be a step ahead. In order to avoid such catastrophes happening and such big changes, especially in organizations. I definitely see the relevance to that. In your previous answer, I know this was the answer to my follow-up, but in your previous answer, you mentioned about Carnicycle having a 3-year plan. My next question was going to be, what are your goals for the next 5 years? But I guess since you put it into a 3-year bucket, um, do you mind sharing or letting us know what are the goals that you foresee Carnicycle getting involved in, working towards, and impacting the world in a positive way?
mhm. Yes. So sorry, I said we had five goals, but
Five goals.
they're
Oh,
split into like three categories. So we operate Carnicycle through education, waste management, and consulting, right? So those are
oh
kind of
wow.
maybe our three pillars. And so all of our goals, or any of our goals that we set, we want them to fall into like those three pillars, right? Um, Education is very important because people have to be aware, understand know the problem, and then also know how they could be part of the solution. So, we use our platform, social media, to do education. We go into schools. So one of our goals is to, go into 50% of secondary schools by, in 3 years. So making our way to go into schools, do workshops and education about how, we can make this celebration. And when we go to schools, we also focus on all of our festivals and tourist events, um, that produce a lot of waste, and how those could be more sustainable, and get young people to start thinking about the way they celebrate, and the way, what it means to have fun, and how that doesn't mean you can have fun at the expense of the environment. So education, we have to go into schools. Waste management, our biggest, initiative has been costume recycling. So far, we have recycled over 1,600 costumes, and, that's really big for us, because yeah, pandemic took out 2 years of our business, and so we
Congratulations.
thank you so much. We have the goal of, recycling over like 100,000 costumes. Um, so that's in 5 years. So that's not part of the 3-year plan. Um, but recycling over 100,000 costumes in that time. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but we're gonna do it. And in 3 years, one of our next big goals is to open a costume recycling facility or plant. And so that that's where when I thought about opening a recycling plant in Tobago, it wasn't a costume recycling plant, but here we are planning to open up a pilot one. So in the next 2 years.
And is that was education, waste management, and the other bucket?
Um, waste management and then consulting. So yeah, the we have achieved our goal for this year of having our first client in the carnival space who produces costumes to do consulting with us. And do consulting, we do end-to-end consulting of their business to enhance their sustainability. So we look at sourcing first, where they source their materials to create their designs or bring their designs to life. We walk them through the alternatives they could use, the resources where they can get alternative textile materials. We give them all of that information, in addition to training about sustainable marketing, sustainable fashion, um, sustainable procurement, all of those different things. And then now we help them create a green policy. So a green policy is a commitment businesses make to the goals they are going to achieve surrounding the environment and their business. So example, like Patagonia will say their green policy is to like reduce 54% of virgin polyester from their jackets or something like that. That's their commitment that they're publicly stating to the world that this is what we're about, this is what we're for. They can have also diversity commitments in your green policy because, again, sustainability is social, economic, and environmental. And we help businesses through our consulting process form that green policy, and then we help them execute it. So that is kind of a consulting process. And our goal was to have our first client this year, and we secured that. Thank God. Praise God. And yeah, we want to continue building up our clients each year. So yeah, that's the consulting piece.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for, highlighting the goals that you're working towards with regards to education and waste management. And congratulations again for achieving and completing your consulting goal for this year. That's wonderful. And now on the topic or on the subject of, completing goals, accolades, accomplishments, achievements. I follow you guys, of course, on your Instagram page, and also I follow you personally on LinkedIn. Do you mind sharing and going into depth about any goals or accolades that Carnicycle has been rewarded since the inception of it?
Yes. Um, yeah, it's so amazing that I'm here. I'm able to even speak about this. It's just like accolades. Like, what is that? This is just something we started. But earlier this year we won our first pitch competition for Carnicycle, as we've been getting into back into that type of world to raise funds for our costume recycling plant and stuff. And so we won our first one. We won the best sustainability pitch of Trinidad and Tobago. Um,
Good job.
Thank you. And we won a monetary prize for that this year, and that was in March this year. And then last year, or no, 2021, we were finalists of this green innovation program, but we weren't the winners. But I still want to acknowledge that we were able to be shortlisted and become finalists. And
Right.
that was a big achievement for us. And then recently, as in this week, I was announced as a 30 under 30 honoree by Green Biz, which is a sustainability media group that recognizes 30 young professionals who are making basically like dents into the world through their participation in climate change, through their job or their startup. And yeah, I myself and Carnicycle was recognized in that 30 under 30 recognition. And so that was just amazing. I didn't think I was going to be under any 30 under 30 list.
That's
And
a wonderful achievement.
yes. And being here is also an honor to me. Seriously, it really is. Having anybody sit down for any amount of time and just listen to me talk about Carnicycle just seems so special to me. And that being said, we've had probably 11 speaking engagements this year, which
Wow.
is, I didn't think I would be invited to conferences and webinars to speak about our work, but um, yeah, here we are. And I'm grateful for each and every one of those opportunities. So
Congratulations. That's so awesome. That's
thank
so wonderful. Um, it's always very comforting and warm to see what the discipline, the hard work, the team got you and Carnicycle and everybody a part of your team. That's truly listening to that and seeing you light up like that. That's very awesome. Congratulations. But I believe that we've reached the last bit of our interview. Before we end this episode, is there any final words that you'd like to say or any lasting comments that you would like to share with anybody or just anything at all?
you.
You don't have to. I mean, it's up to you.
Mhm. I just want to say that more like this was something that's been brought up in this conversation. Let's roll that back. I just want to say has been brought up as kind of a theme during our whole conversation, but this really is a long where you're in, your purpose for the long haul. And I also want to foreshadow that by your purpose can change, right? So whatever purpose is right in front of you, focus on that and give it your all. And you don't know where that will take you. And I just want you to trust that it will take you somewhere good, and not just for yourself, but for those around you. And it's a reminder that your purpose is not for yourself. Your purpose is to positively impact the people around you. Your purpose could impact two people. That's two whole lives you're impacting. Your purpose could impact 1,000 people. But, give your purpose your all, because it's going to impact someone. You know what I mean? And just keep the faith when you're doing it. You know, you know, pray to God, surround yourself by, good people, and just have faith that everything will be okay, and whatever you're doing is not in vain. And I just want to give that people that reminder.
Well, thank you, Danny. That was a great reminder. It was a pleasure um, interviewing you and talking to you and learning more about Carnival. Thank you so much for your willingness to speak with me in this type of setting and have that dialogue. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Danny as we talked about Carnicycle and how it came to be and the great lengths that she has overcome, in the environment of trying to be a successful entrepreneur. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be sure to see you in my next video. Thank you. Bye.